Aeroflot was 2 years into an 8-year-long plan to reshape itself as a world-leading carrier. However, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has led to severe economic sanctions, cutting airlines off from any aviation products or services. Indeed, a portion of Aeroflot's own collection of aircraft is leased and was previously registered in countries like Bermuda. So, how does international action against Russia affect the SkyTeam members' fleet? Let's take a look. Aeroflots Fleet has become more and more westernized in the last 2 decades as it became a mainstream global carrier. Since 2000, and particularly in the first decade of the 21st century, the number of Russian aircraft in Aeroflots Fleet has been in decline. As seen in this 2021 graph from chaviation.com, the carrier's Russian-built fleet was just a third of what its size was in 2000. It isn't just the number of individual Russian-built aircraft that has dropped, but also the variety of Russian designs in Aeroflot's fleet. At the turn of the century, the Russian flag carrier flew jetliners from both Ilyushin, IL-62, 86 and 96, and Tupolev, Tu-134, 154 and 204. However, slowly but surely, these were phased out. The Tu-154 lasted the longest until 2016. Interestingly, since 2011, you can see that the number of Russian aircraft in Aeroflot's fleet has slowly been on the rise. This is thanks to the increasing prevalence of the Sukhoi Superjet 100, which began flying for the airline in 2011. This transformation coincided with the end of Soviet-era passenger planes, with only a few remaining in service today. By the end of this year, there were to be no Russian planes in Aeroflot's fleet under the 30-30 plan, with SSJ-100 jets being transferred to subsidiaries such as Rossiya. However, due to recent events, this could all change. So, before we look at the airline's future, let's take a look at the planes Aeroflot currently operates as of late March 2022. The carrier has a fleet of about 180 aircraft, featuring a mix of Airbus and Boeing jets, along with a few Sukhoi superjets. For Boeing aircraft, there are 37 737-800s, averaging about 6 years, and 22 777-300ERs, also averaging just over 6 years. For Airbus, we have 52 Airbus A320-200s, which have an average age of nearly 7 years, 32 A321-200s averaging just over 6 years, 7 relatively new A350-900s which average just over 1 year, 12 A330-300s which are all around 10 years, 6 A320neos which average 6 years, and 3 A321neos which are all about 1 year old. When it comes to Russian-built aircraft, Aeroflot has 9 Sukhoi Superjet 100s, which have an average age of 8 years. These numbers appear to be changing by the day, with some jets moving to Aeroflot subsidiaries. Thus, these figures may even be different by the time you watch this video. Additionally, a large portion of this fleet is listed as parked and inactive, something we'll discuss further in this video. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, countries all over the world have imposed heavy economic sanctions. Aeroflot has been in disaster management ever since, being forced to shut down routes due to loss of overflight rights and eventually cancelling all but one international destination. That one destination is Minsk in Belarus. However, the biggest risk of Aeroflot is the one to its fleet. Data from CH Aviation shows that nearly all of the airline's planes are leased, meaning they could be at risk of termination or seizure. In recent weeks, lessors have made the decision to fly back planes being used by Russian carriers or seize them wherever possible. This doesn't apply to homegrown lessors or those from allied companies, but Western firms and big names like AerCap and GCAS are all looking to exit Russia as soon as possible. At the time of this video's production, Aeroflot has already lost 3 jets due to international seizures outside of Russia. All 3 seizures appear to have taken place on the same day in late February. On February 27th, the Airbus A320-200 registered Victor Papa Bravo Alpha Charlie, was flying from Moscow to Dusseldorf when it was diverted to Amsterdam. The aircraft, nicknamed L. Tolstoy, has remained at the airport in storage since. Also taking place on February 27th, the Airbus A321-200, registered Victor Papa Bravo Oscar Echo, was due to fly from Geneva back to Moscow. While the flight plan changed several times, it appears that the aircraft never left Geneva and has been there since late February. Finally, the A320-200, registered as Victor Papa Bravo Echo Tango, was seized in Munich. The jet had flown there from St. Petersburg on February 27th as flight SU-2826. The aircraft has been in Germany since that time. When it comes to Aeroflot's flagship Airbus A350s, the entirety of this subfleet is listed as parked. At one point, CH Aviation noted that one of the aircraft in the airline's possession was listed as active. Registered Victor Papa Bravo X-Ray Papa, it had been flying regularly between Moscow and Sochi up until March 9th. Data shows that the airline ordered a total of 22 A350s, but of course, as this conflict drags on and sanctions continue, the delivery of the remaining jets is fairly uncertain. Indeed, a few A350s that were ready or near ready to be delivered to the airline, A350 MSNs 471, 457 and 463, are sitting in storage at Châteauroux Centre Airport or CHR. Quite interestingly, one Airbus A350, MSN 466, narrowly made it to Russia before sanctions were imposed. The aircraft was delivered from Toulouse to Moscow on February 24th, the day of the invasion into Ukraine. In early March, Flight Global reported that Lufthansa was on the hunt for additional wide-bodies. While there has been some speculation that the carrier is eyeing Aeroflot's undelivered A350s, nothing has yet to be confirmed. Still, this would appear to be a good fit for the German airline, as it already operates a fleet of 20 A350s. You may have noticed that we just referred to Aeroflot's A350s using manufacturer serial numbers or MSNs rather than registration numbers. That's because on March 12th, the Bermudan Civil Aviation Authority or BCAA provisionally suspended the certificates of airworthiness or COAs of all Russian jets registered within the country. In a statement posted to its website, the BCAA said that sanctions have meant that the Aviation Authority is no longer able to sustain quote-unquote safety oversight on Russian-operated aircraft on its registry, adding, "The airworthiness system has been restricted to the point that the Bermuda Civil Aviation Authority is unable to confidently approve these aircraft as being airworthy." In addition to aircraft safety oversight issues, sanctions require that lessors terminate all leasing contracts with Russian airlines by 28 March at the latest. To prevent a fleet exodus, Putin recently signed a bill that will allow foreign aircraft to be re-registered in Russia, ensuring its continued operations, at least domestically. However, re-registering an aircraft without a certificate of deregistration is an illegal practice, running airlines into all kinds of trouble. While the forced nationalization of planes will buy Russia some time to protect its aviation industry, the lack of new planes means the future looks very hazy for the market. Russian-operated aircraft on the Bermudan registry have had to be re-registered onto the Russian registry. Aircraft previously registered in Bermuda with prefixes Victor Papa Bravo and Victor Quebec Bravo will now have prefixes of Romeo Alpha, indicating their place on the Russian aircraft registry. This includes the entirety of Aeroflot's A350 fleet, as well as its other aircraft, including its Boeing 777s and Airbus A320s. This mass re-registration of aircraft off the Bermudan registry and over to Russia is more than likely the case for other Russian carriers, such as Aeroflot subsidiaries Rossiya and Pobeda. Planespotters.net has been updating these changes as they become available, so it's worth checking out the site if you're interested in this aspect of Russian airline fleets. At the time of this video's production, much of Aeroflot's fleet is listed as parked by Planespotters. Indeed, out of the roughly 180 aircraft, 56 are listed as parked. With airspace bans surrounding Russia, the airline would certainly not be able to operate as many services as it did before late February. The seizures witnessed in late February would also offer a good explanation as to why Aeroflot and other Russian carriers have suspended their international services, save for flights to friendly neighbour Belarus. Thus, these factors have contributed to reduced demand and the reason for so many Aeroflot aircraft remaining on the ground. For Aeroflot jets that are active, the airline has been deploying Airbus and Boeing wide-bodies on lengthy transcontinental services, often with durations of 7 or 8 hours. When it comes to the 7 of 15 Boeing 777s listed as in service by plane spotters, data from Flight Radar 24 tells us that the jet currently registered as Victor Quebec Bravo Quebec Mike has been flying out of Moscow to destinations like Vladivostok and Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky Airport. It's a similar situation for other Aeroflot 777s registered Bravo Hotel Alpha, Bravo Quebec Echo, and Bravo Uniform Bravo. Similarly, the airline's active fleet of Airbus A330-300s have been keeping to Russian airspace. From Moscow Sheremetyevo, the airline has deployed its A330s to Russian destinations such as Khabarovsk, Yakutsk, and Vladivostok. The serviceability of existing aircraft is also a big question mark for Aeroflot. Not only have plane makers like Airbus stopped delivery of new aircraft, but sanctions in addition to the decisions of international plane makers have resulted in a cut-off of parts supplies to Russia. Considering the fact that 171 of Aeroflot's 180 aircraft are from either Airbus or Boeing, the carrier would seem to be in trouble when it comes to aircraft maintenance. The uncertainty of this situation has led to much speculation. Some would say that Aeroflot's Airbus and Boeing aircraft will simply remain on the ground, unable to operate. Before this happens, we would imagine that aircraft with functioning parts could be cannibalized to ensure partial fleet operation. However, beyond this, it's quite conceivable that with support from the Russian government, spare parts could simply be produced by Russian companies. With enough resources and raw materials, reverse engineering could take place, ensuring a steady supply of spares. While this type of activity would be a clear violation of copyright and intellectual property law, it's clear that Russia is not likely to comply with international agreements that would further damage its weakened economy. Indeed, the nation may nationalize aircraft owned by external lessors, essentially holding on to property that isn't technically theirs. The future is very much unclear for Aeroflot's fleet, and of course the fleets of its subsidiaries as well as other Russian carriers. Naturally, this uncertainty will remain until the conflict in Ukraine is resolved one way or another. Should Russia somehow succeed militarily in its invasion, economic sanctions and airspace bans are likely to continue. Should Russia find itself in a situation similar to that of Iran or North Korea, the country's homegrown aviation sector will likely rise to become the solution for Russian commercial aviation. When it comes to the Russian plane-making industry, we already know that MC-21 development will be adjusted. Already forced to develop Russian-built engines and composite parts for the short and medium-range narrow-body aircraft due to previous sanctions, long-term sanctions may prompt a speedier development of the new narrow-body flagship project MC-21. In mid-March, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Yuri Borisov stated, "There is no pause in the work of enterprises and there will not be. Everyone continues to work. Let me emphasize once again that we are speeding up the implementation of our flagship projects MC-21 and SSJ-100. Additionally, Rostec's Sergei Chemezov says that resuming serial production of the medium-haul Tu-204 and wide-body IL-96 is being considered. So, with these statements being considered, it's conceivable that if Russia continues its aggressive stance in Europe, that Aeroflot and other Russian airlines may eventually be dominated by Russian-built aircraft. Already, carriers, mainly Aeroflot subsidiary Rossiya, are operating the small regional SSJ-100 with increased frequency. So, if sanctions continue, we could see the MC-21 becoming Aeroflot's replacement for the Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 family. And while the CR929 has had its rough patches, it could soon be the only choice of new widebody for Russian carriers. But what do you think is the future of Aeroflot's fleet, both in the short term and long term? Do you think there's a chance that replica Airbus and Boeing parts will be produced for aircraft in Russia? Let us know what you think by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.